Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today, bringing you my breakdown of every bit of Starfield gameplay that we saw at the Xbox Bethesda Game Showcase. I was already excited for this game, but after combing through every inch of gameplay that we received, I'm even more pumped because I have over 100 things, no exaggeration, to show you in today's video. There were so many little details packed in what Bethesda provided us that I'm not going to waste any time because this is the biggest trailer breakdown I've ever had to do, so let's not waste any more time and get straight into it. If you're looking for more Starfield news, information, and coverage, you are in the right place. Please do consider subscribing, and also if you're interested in the future of Xbox, we cover a lot of that too. So let's start off with a little bit of lore to date ourselves. As the trailer begins, we see it's May 7th, 2330. We're on the moon of Ancelon, known as Crete. Now, in the Starfield Settled Systems trailer, Emil Pagliarulo confirmed to us that 20 years before this was a colony war between the Freestar Collective and the United Colonies. Right now, they're enjoying what you would call a fragile peace. So just to date where we are and how far removed we are in the current game from what happened in the lore, that's what's going on. Now, moving on, we're in the hull of the ship here. In front of you is your companion Vasco, which we've met in a separate trailer from Bethesda Game Studios, albeit a brief one. He's going to be giving you information throughout this entire gameplay breakdown. The player is equipped with what's called a semi-auto Eon. It's a pistol as indicated by the image, and we'll see later in the gameplay. You also have frag grenades. On the bottom left of the HUD is a O2 and CO2 meter that slides around as the player explores. And upon expanding this, when you're using the No Man's Sky scanner, when you're taking a look at the dust route, you'll see that it changes to the temperature at 7 degrees, 1% oxygen, and 0.55, which seems to be for gravity. Your weapon also goes from a semi-auto Eon to a cutter, which is a mining laser that we're going to take a look at later on in this video. There's a survey that's tracking how much you have scanned of the planet or the moon that you're on, which is at currently 66.6%. I hope that's not a bad omen. Anyway, the player at this point has found 5 out of 8 resources, there's no fauna on the planet to discover, and there's 0 out of 2 for flora. Now, upon scanning, it'll say on the top right of the screen that the survey data has been added. So maybe you can go into some type of journal and read about this. And on the bottom bar are the following options: Outpost, which we'll talk about extensively later, photo mode, toggle guide, and back. Moving on, we've confirmed that third-person gameplay is in the game as you encounter your first Crete Stalker, one of our first creatures in the game. It's level 1, and you can see that the health bar is below the name, which will be the general HUD layout for the rest of the game. There's an icon on the bottom left of the map as well, which appears to be a map marker of some kind. And it's not a custom one because you can see a very particular custom one later on in this trailer. Now, upon scanning a cropping of rocks to mine, you'll see that there's iron, and just like No Man's Sky, you'll use your mining laser to get that. Upon getting that iron, it'll say on the top right in very subtle text that the iron has been added to your inventory. This is something I wanted to point out because you'll notice that it's not like, say, Fallout 4 where you have the Pip-Boy popping up fully animated. A lot of the HUD in this game is pretty simplistic, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Upon discovering the Crete lab, you're going to gain XP, something that happens in all Bethesda Game Studios games, and it continues on here. Immediately after, it's confirmed that there are different types of ships, as the first one we see is the Crimson Fleet Ghost. This is the main space pirate faction, and you can actually end up joining them if you'd like, as we'll highlight later on. Now, as you jump in the air, you'll see the 0.55 gravity might be in effect as your player gets a lot of air, and upon landing, they don't lose any health. So certain planets will have different feels, and that's actually really exciting for gameplay variety. Now, when combat begins, you'll see a couple of level 2 pirates running at you, and the map's going to turn red. Upon killing one of the enemies, you'll see that this is a real-time looter just like Fallout 4, where you don't have to open an inventory menu, say like Oblivion or Fallout 3. This just all happens in the game world. You don't have to slide through a bunch of menus and have the game itself pause. Then deeper in the combat segment, you'll see your character slide. As you can tell by just the tips of the feet that are pointing out and the way the character is grinding along the floor, it's not smooth, but it is a new type of mechanic that Bethesda Game Studios has never done before. Then you see a quick swap for your weapons, something that we did have in Fallout 4 where it's similar to that favorite menu. However, it's at the heart of the screen and it slows down time. Again, just like Fallout 4, you can have 12 guns favorited at once, so upon customizing these and finding some of your favorites, you can pull them out whenever you'd like. There's a weapon case that you'll eventually discover towards the later part of this dungeon with a novice lock. You'll have 15 digipicks, which is the new way of lockpicking in this game, and it has a new mini game. But on the bottom of the HUD, it has an auto slot option, and you can undo slots too if you make a mistake. Now, upon unlocking this, you have the Equinox, and I just wanted to point out here that you can actually hold to equip this, so it can just hop right into your hands if you like what you see. However, a smaller detail I also noticed in this room was on the dry erase board in the back, it says experimental analysis of selected clone cells, and this is specific to this Crete research lab. So it's something definitely worth monitoring on a narrative level. It seems location specific and not really anything to do with the main story, as we'll talk about that quite a bit later on. Upon opening the door and getting ready to engage with the Crimson Fleet yet again, I noticed this United Colonies terminal on the right. This is a major faction in Starfield that we're going to talk a lot about in this video, but I was wondering if this was used to unlock the door. We don't see it in action, we don't see the player look at it, so I don't know if any HUD will pop up upon interacting with it, and I don't know if this is, say, Starfield's version of the Fallout terminals and they can be hacked. But it's something that it looked like the door kind of swung open on its own as if it was automated by something, so I just wanted to speculate on that a little bit. It did stand out to me, it seemed brighter than anything else in the room, as if it was calling the player to be interacted with. Continuing on with some subtle HUD pickups that I noticed, on the top left of the screen, you'll notice that the mission updates and it just happens very quietly. Again, no Vault Boy animations or anything of that nature. Another funny detail here that they do point out pretty directly, but I just wanted to celebrate, is shooting this man's backpack, and when you do blow it up, he skyrockets into space. But probably the biggest surprise in the gameplay was here when you were able to do some air dashing. Upon doing an air dash, you'll see a brand new boost meter appear on the bottom right corner of the screen. And it's not that you can only dash once in this, because as you'll see, once you do the first dash, it'll start to recharge a bit in midair, and then the player will dash again. Now it goes to a focus on civilization. It looks like we're in the landing zone of New Atlantis based off the top board here. There's Pad A and arrivals, so again, this does seem like a landing zone. There's a diversity of NPCs in appearance, outfits, and armors, but no aliens yet at all in any of this gameplay. However, Bethesda said there are aliens. And the reason why this place is important is because according to Emil Pagliarulo in the Starfield Locations Insights for New Atlantis, this is the capital of the most powerful military and political faction in the game, the United Colonies. In this video, he calls it a melting pot, blending every race, creed, and ethnicity. It's designed to be a true reflection of the future of our world. Moving on into the next shot here, these flags in the background are going to be extremely important in narrowing down one of the factions we're going to talk about later on in this video. But for now, I just wanted to focus on the United Colonies, where, as Emil said, where the United Colonies are an extremely powerful military faction that look how kitted up their soldiers are. This is seemingly Starfield's version of the Citadel. It really reminds me of that, this melting pot and the flags in the background seemingly suggesting that there's multiple nations that would gather here, or star systems, whatever they call them. Next, we see what is maybe Starfield's version of a Pip-Boy, although I don't think it'll be that extreme. The watch says identifying, hold up to access, and the player character flashes this watch at the door. An unlock sign appears on the watch, and then the doors open. This watch is given to you by Constellation for your mission, as it's been confirmed prior to this trailer. So it's likely whatever that you're unlocking here is going to be relevant to that, and the trailer quickly confirms that, as a woman greets you saying, "Welcome to Constellation. We have a lot to talk about. We're committed to the biggest question of them all. What's out there?" And I just wanted to say, those facial animations, oh my gosh, is this Bethesda Game Studios? Hello. Then it shows Vasco and a number of other people afterwards, and I imagine that these are just major members of Constellation. However, I did speculate that maybe they're companions too, or maybe Vasco is a part of Constellation and wanted to bring you here. Why would they show him and then a bunch of other NPCs? Perhaps I'm reading too deep into it, but I thought it was worth pointing out. Beyond that, you'll notice some portraits in the background, and one thing that I thought was important in this shot here is this man had the Constellation sign that we saw on the doors behind him. So is this their founder, their leader perhaps? I'm not quite sure, but it stuck out to me. Now, you may recognize these from the Starfield reveal trailer last year. They say these artifacts could be everything that we're looking for. As for what they are, what they're building, you'll be a part of solving that. Now, it's funny because that's exactly what I'm going to do for you here. In my video called Starfield's Biggest Mystery Just Got Even Stranger, we dissected what I believe are these artifacts. Todd Howard himself said there are some big narrative clues in this reveal trailer, so do bear with me. In this shot of the Starfield reveal trailer, it says beneath a number of what I believe are artifacts, Alpha, Beta, and Chi, that, quote, Debate in Constellation continues over the nature of the pathways, end quote. Beneath that, it says, quote, so far we have been unable to determine what happens at the center, end quote, with a variety of coded chambers. Perhaps these artifacts are the keys to the chamber that is locking away the mystery that Constellation wishes to solve. Perhaps the very chamber is the one that we see here in the Starfield cover art. And in fact, you see something eerily similar to that I'll point out when we get to that point in the trailer. Then you're approached by someone else who's a part of Constellation. He asks you, you dug up that artifact, right? That means you saw it. The visions. And this comes after a shot of you reaching out to the artifacts, touching them, and some sort of transition occurring. This isn't the last time we hear about this. It appears that these artifacts are creating visions and that there is some type of mystery with these artifacts that are trying to guide these people somewhere. Afterwards, it skips to Aquila City. This is another important one, as MrMattyPlays had another Into the Starfield video on this talking about this. He defined it as the capital of the Free Star Collective, which is a confederation of 3 star systems. People who believe in freedom and individuality. It's a dangerous city though, because outside of those walls are very threatening creatures. After that, we see another planet, and given that Starfield has over 1,000 planets, I do apologize that not all of these are things that we can identify. However, it just goes to show the visual diversity of these planets. One thing I can pick up on, though, is the different kind of armor we're wearing and the larger jetpack that we have on, because most of this video, we are seeing the standard shot of the character that we saw in those Starfield leaks years ago. Continuing on with planets I'm not entirely sure of, we see Paradiso, which is a tropical location, and it doesn't seem to be New Atlantis where a lot of greenery was in this trailer so far, based on the earlier fly-through we got that I took a closer look at. Next is a planet we can identify, Neon. MrMattyPlays once again had a Into the Starfield on this one. He called it the Pleasure City, where the Xenofresh Corporation built a fishing platform on a nondescript aquatic world. They wanted to catch fish until they found one with psychotropic qualities and decided to sell it as a drug known as Aurora, which has drawn a lot of people to Neon. Now, the reason I think this is Neon is not only because of, all the neon signs, but also the yellowish dome that you see on the top here, based off the concept art here. It looks eerily similar, and I feel like it's fair to narrow it down to that. And there are businesses here as well. The Volley Hotel, Reliant Medical. How interactable they'll be, I'm not sure. I think of locations like in the Outer Worlds where there was 1,000,001 brands and you didn't always see or interact with them. They just kind of existed to create the idea of this highly consumeristic society. Moving on though, what looks like more of Neon, however, almost a slums area, and you get a real feel of what this place is like. However, there are United Colony soldiers, it seems, patrolling these areas. On the side, though, is another business. Looks like it's a medical place of some kind. Now, we're inside Aquila City. This is Tatooine vibes through and through. It's totally different from Neon, and again shows the complete difference in what Starfield is bringing on a visual diversity level. We see Shepard's on the left, which appears to be some type of bar, perhaps. And deep in the back, we see Roland's Arms, which I imagine is a weapons dealer of some kind. But it looks like the character is heading for this big building right here in the middle. And it may be a museum based on the next shot, because for those who haven't watched Bethesda Game Studios trailers, they're always trying to tell a story, frame by frame. And as you watch them slowly, you'll start to notice that the things we think are 1,000,001 different locations are all about 5 steps from one another. So I feel like the next shot here is the building that they're heading towards. And you see statues, cases holding items of importance. And that's important to note because next we see a man saying, "Beautiful, isn't it? The man who sold it to me told me that it spoke to him." And it shows a very familiar item, again, from those reveal trailers. Are these the fragments? These are more breadcrumbs, nonetheless, of these visions. Now we're going to take a closer look at some of the factions in Starfield, as they're really showing the people that populate these locations. This person seems to be a member of the United Colonies. At first it seemed like a tough call, but I'll explain how I narrowed this one down. He calls for you to join up and help take down these cutthroat pirates after there's a shot of the Crimson Fleet invading a spaceport. Here is the logo in the Settled Systems trailer when MrMattyPlays says that the Free Star Collective and United Colonies are engaged in a war. However, if you look at these flags from earlier in this image, you see that the same upward arrow with UC for United Colonies is beneath it. Then looking at the sleeves of the people here in the headquarters after that man spoke to us shows at least a similar shape. So right now my guess is this is the United Colony speaking to us, and they're trying to take out some of the Crimson Fleet. It was also kind of cool to see in a combat shot afterwards that you can use that mining laser as a weapon. Now going back to the people, there's the leader of the Freestar Collective. We don't really get a name of any of these characters. However, they claim they're peacekeepers and they're there to protect the people. And their home base is the Rock. Afterwards, we get this look here at the Crimson Fleet base. And they say, when you sign up with the Crimson Fleet, no one wins. The only way out is death. Now it's been confirmed by Todd Howard, as I said earlier, that you can actually join this faction. So you can be a villain in this game. Now we're starting to see more diversity of the interiors. The frozen research facility, zero gravity, not just for the player, but objects in the environment, even to the point where you can do zero gravity gunfights. This looks awesome. And then afterwards, we get our first look at a snow planet and a brand new creature. Again, just a lot of planet flexing in this video, especially in the ending, which we'll talk about extensively. Afterwards, we see what is a very fascinating stretch of this trailer that we need to dive deeper into. It appears that there's a huge mining operation ongoing with a giant laser mining bit of machinery here. There's more people throughout this tunnel system mining, and it looks like everyone's searching for, I would imagine, artifacts. However, here's where it gets really interesting. And I have some theories, but they're just theories. You'll see United States on a pod here right in the middle. And then on these banners, I had to like double, triple, quadruple check. I'm pretty sure that says NASA. That's NASA imagery on these top banners. And I was just very surprised to see this because I do know, separately speaking, that Todd Howard said that the team visited the SpaceX headquarters. And I do remember supposed leaks on Reset Era or something suggesting that they also visited NASA. So I was really keen on seeing how this appeared here. But the question is there Earth in this game? And that might be fair to suggest. Jumping to the end of the trailer here, because I feel like it connects all these theories together, when Todd Howard was showing the 1,000+ planets that we can explore and all of the solar systems that we can go to, one of them was our solar system. And you see a shot here of Mars. So I can't help but look at that, look at what we see here, and it's possible that they just imported a ton of stuff from Earth. It may not be Earth, but there is remnants of our society here. There are connections there, and it's possible we may be able to visit that. This was one of my favorite discoveries because I just thought it was so cool and how they grounded it in our world in a way that I thought was so on the nose that I think it flew over a lot of people's heads. I was surprised to not see it on Twitter, Reddit. Maybe I missed it, but anyway, moving on. More tropical locale. Is this Paradiso? I'm not sure, but hey, look, dinosaur. Just more stuff to encounter. We'd love to see that. Does this look familiar? Well, it should, because much like from earlier, these are the coded chambers that have to do with the artifacts. This kind of is a callback to that cover art right there. And then they say, what we will find will change humanity forever. It's exactly what's happening in this image here from the reveal trailer. The rotating rings especially. These are direct hints. We need to pay attention to this stuff. We are so close to cracking the key, but I hope that Bethesda doesn't do what they did with Fallout 4 and practically spoil the ending of the game. This was the perfect story trailer to create a mystery without giving anything away. And it really helps that this is a new IP because we can't go like we did with Fallout 4 or any of the Elder Scrolls games and look at past games to piece things together. This is all brand new, so there's only so much that we can guess around. Then they stop the story stuff and we move on to character building. This was another exciting stretch. They show off 16 different backgrounds: Beast Hunter, Bouncer, Bounty Hunter, Chef, Combat Medic, Cyber Runner, Cyberneticist, Diplomat, Explorer, Gangster, Homesteader, Industrialist, Long Hauler, Pilgrim, Professor, Ronin, and there's a scroll bar next to it. That indicates that there's more, and I imagine 20 would be a pretty nice number. The chef has the starting skills of gastronomy, which allows you to craft specialty foods and drinks and research additional recipes at a research lab, dueling, which allows melee damage to increase by 10%, and wellness, which immediately you gain 30 points of health. Then the combat medic's starting skills are pistol certification, which allows pistols to do 10% more damage, medicine, which lets your med packs heal 10% more, and weightlifting, which increases the carrying capacity by 10 kilograms. Next is Cyber Runner starting skills, with pistol certification again. Security, which allows you to attempt to hack advanced locks and have 2 auto attempts that can be banked. Then there's Persuasion, as we all expected, which gives you an increased chance of success on speech challenges, which we actually didn't see anything of. Afterwards is the Cyberneticist starting skills. Medicine, robotics. This allows you to deal 10% more damage to robots and turrets. Lasers, which let your laser weapons do 10% more damage. And there's more. Diplomat has starting skills of Persuasion, Diplomacy. Diplomacy allows you to force a target NPC below your level to stop fighting for a while, which is something that we saw similarly in Fallout 4 with creatures, where you could tell people to calm down and pacify them. Then there's Bargaining, which allows you to buy items for 5% less and sell items for 10% more. Afterwards are traits, and there's plenty of them. You can select 3. One of them we see right off the bat is the Introvert. You can have more endurance when adventuring alone, but less when adventuring with other human companions. So effectively your lone wanderer perk here. Then there's kid stuff. Your parents are alive and well, and you can visit them at their home. 10% of all the money you earn is deducted automatically and sent to them. So you can have parents in Starfield. I don't know what you can do when you visit them, but that's got to be awesome. So I'm totally doing that one. Neon Street Rat. You gain access to special dialogue options and better rewards from some missions on Neon. Crime bounty by other factions is increased. Okay, so now we're learning about some gameplay systems that really weren't explored here, about missions you can take from Neon, specifically if they're putting a trait attached to it. Maybe this is the hub where you get a lot of fetch quests, and then crime bounties. Very interesting. Can certain factions place a bounty on you based off your choices? It's going to be really cool to see if they have a reputation system of some kind. Next is Raised Enlightened, Raised Universal, and Serpent's Embrace. These are all religion-based traits, which give you significant discounts at their respective organization stores, but when you pick one, you can't pick the other. And in the case of Serpent's Embrace, it makes it where if you're not jumping, that you're actually going to have your health and endurance lowered. Afterwards is Spaced, which says that your body has become acclimated to space and that your health and endurance are increased when you're in space, but it is decreased when you're on the surface. This is important to note because they say it can't be combined with terra firma, which they don't show off, but I imagine does the opposite, where when you are on the surface, your health and endurance is increased, but when you're in space, it's decreased. Then they give you a starter home and put you in debt right away. They say that you own a small house on a peaceful little moon, but it comes with a 50,000 credit mortgage with Gal Bank. I love that this is even a thing. Continuing on with some more character building stuff. Now we're seeing the skill tree tabs, and they really don't show us much at all. The skill tabs on the top are physical, social, combat, science, and tech. So it seems like social would obviously be your dialogue stuff. Combat, we'll see a lot of. Physical, maybe strength and carry weight. Science could be something like crafting, and tech could be stuff to do with laser weaponry, but your guess is as good as mine. So we do see for our first combat perk is particle beams. No description for that. Then there's rapid reloading, which says it gains a chance to reload your weapon twice as fast as normal at rank 3 out of 4, with a challenge progression next to it that says reload 125 empty magazines. This is a key part of Starfield's progression system. They say as you complete challenges, you'll get skill points, and then you can spend those to rank up said skills. So continuing on, they have sniper certification, where the next unlock says scope weapons are steadier and have less sway with 4 total ranks. Then there's targeting, which is at 2 out of 4. And it says the next unlock greatly increases accuracy and range when shooting without aiming, with the challenge saying kill 125 enemies without aiming, which would explain the terrible gameplay in the beginning of all of this. Then there's heavy weapon certification, rank 3 out of 4, and its next unlock says gain 30 damage resistance when aiming down sights with a heavy weapon, with a challenge progress saying kill 250 enemies with a heavy weapon. Next up is demolitions, rank 2 out of 4, with the next unlock saying explosives do 30% more damage and have 30% larger radius, with the challenge progress saying kill 125 enemies with explosives. Last but not least is ballistics that we see. It's at rank 3 out of 4 as well, saying the next unlock will have ballistic weapons range increased by 30%. And then what's really cool is upon opening it, you'll see ranks 1 through 3, and each of those had damage increases by 10%, with rank 4 being attached to the range. So it seems like there's a completely different perk that gets attached to the skill once it's all said and done. Now we're getting a look at researching and crafting. Starting off with the research lab, this is for researching. A lot of people thought this was the crafting bench. It is not. You have the sections of pharmacology, food and drink, outpost development, equipment, and weaponry, and each has projects available as you can see on screen. Now they go into weaponry, and the player is researching barrel mods, where the required materials for this are 20 iron, 20 nickel, and 10 sealant. You would research these and in turn unlock them to then craft. So they show the pistol from the very start, the semi-auto Eon. Now it's had a laser sight and high-capacity magazine attached to it. Now it's time to put it into action. They show off what is a disease siren. I did see some speculation on this potentially being a status effect, but later on, we do see other diseased enemies, so I would imagine it is a enemy type. And then on the bottom left, we start to see some new planet names. This one is Alpha Andraste 2. Another new creature is Metropus Floater, and that's Lantana 3. The Angler Hexapod is on Moloch 1. And now we're on Vectera, which is a moon, and we get our first look at the Outpost building mode, much to some people's dismay at least. There's 9 resources to discover, which isn't much at all, and it does show us that there are going to be a lot of planets in Starfield that are going to be dedicated to just building outposts. There are different gravity and temperatures here compared to what we saw on Crete, the moon, at the beginning of this video. Next is the Outpost crafting HUD. There's a build limit as per usual, with Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 having similar limits. And then there are little tiers at the bottom for your cargo, crew, and power, all at 0, with the ability to toggle views that we'll see later on in this video, and the amount your outpost is producing per minute. There's also an integrity meter on the top left, worth keeping an eye on. Now, moving on, this is the new view that you can change to build from. This is a huge improvement from Fallout 4, where you'd be running around and jury-rigging things in first person. Now there's an isometric view. The top left shows the operating cost for certain structures, as well as what resources you're going to need to build it. There's also visual variants of most of the items that you can place, so it's a lot like Fallout 4 and 76 in that way. However, there is a height limit too that you have to keep an eye on, so there is, again, not just building to your heart's content here, but I'm sure modders will do something about that. After they show a couple of rotating generator thingies, you can see the power's at 24, so it seems like you don't always have to have 1,000,001 wires dragged across things if those things are in place and there is power being produced in the area. I think this is good because it means that some settlements will actually not look like absolute mayhem when I build them. Afterwards, they confirm in the trailer that you can hire characters to keep these outposts afloat, and it looks like this person here is from the United Colonies based off their UC patch on the right shoulder. They also confirm that you can choose crew members for your spaceship, and they start to get into spaceship customization, and there's a lot here, so get ready. Let's start off with that you have to have credits to buy new parts from a vendor. It doesn't seem like this is tied into crafting. Maybe you can craft new spaceship parts, but it looks like, based off the top right of the screen, that this is just buying new parts. The bottom bar mentions lasers, ballistics, missiles, a hull, a shield, your cargo, your jump range, your mobility, top speed, and mass. These are all important. As you change these pieces, the top left and bottom parts of the HUD will color code to let you know what stats are increasing or decreasing based off what you're equipping. This engine has an item description of every spaceship needs engines upgrade to increase speed and acceleration. The mass of the entire ship will affect the performance, so stuff worth keeping in mind for how you're planning to build your ships. What was a really big confirmation here is refueling. Refueling is a thing you'll need to do in Starfield. The item description for a helium-3 tank says, spaceship fuel tank stores helium-3, which is used by the grav drive to perform a jump. Increased fuel capacity means you can jump further or more often before refueling. So it's something you're going to have to keep an eye on. It likely ties into the outpost, where maybe they can produce this type of resource for you. And it also means that you can't just willy-nilly hop to the other end of the universe. You need to build up your starship to reach those ends of the universe and have maybe the ability to go further light years away, which is a really cool mechanic, and I'm curious to see how that all plays out. There are also ship parts that require skills. One skill that we didn't see ever in this entire video up until this point. It's called Starship Design. The item description for this reads, spaceship landers come equipped with auto-deploying landing gear to help pilots land on even the roughest of terrain. Perhaps what this means is there are skill checks that allow you to land on literally anywhere in a planet, because Todd Howard did say at the end of this, you can land anywhere, and maybe with this skill, it's truly anywhere. Within reason, of course. Can you land in the middle of a city? I doubt it. But can you land maybe outside of that? Maybe. I think it seems like it's very possible, especially with this skill in tow. Now we're in the actual spaceship itself. A lot of that combat is self-explanatory. There's nothing for me to break down, but there is some HUD keys I wanted to point out. It'll tell you when an enemy's missiles have locked onto you, which I imagine means you'll have the ability to evade these in some way, shape, or form. There's also a target lock, so it seems like you can lock on too. And this lock on is handled by an increasing percentage that scales as you keep your aim on the enemy until it reaches 100%. I did mention at the start of this that there are other ship types, and here's a quicker one called the Crimson Fleet Haunt, which zooms right past you compared to the ghosts that you were fighting beforehand. One thing that's also really, really cool that I was so happy to find as a confirmation is you can dock onto ships and even board them out in outer space. So maybe we can find some derelict ships, some abandoned space stations with stories to tell. I know my imagination's getting the best of me here, but I just can't help but go crazy and think of like the Harbinger from KOTOR 2 and what they could do with things like that in Starfield. Going back to the combat a little bit, they show that there's critical hits, so even during spaceship combat, there's some RPG things happening as you shoot the reactor, and you see in the top right corner, it mentions that's a critical hit to that part of the spaceship you're attacking. Now, we're into the point in the video where they're showing off the planets, the galaxies, the places you can go, and one thing they show off is scanning. And I wondered if this is going to be like Mass Effect, where Todd did say some planets are just resource farms. And in Mass Effect 2, for example, you would scan a planet and you just shoot probes in certain areas. I imagine that this is something you're going to be doing here. You're not going to just land on it and just mine away. Maybe there's something you can do from the spaceship. At least that would make sense based off the games that Starfield is clearly taking inspiration from. Afterwards, it's a lot of what I call planet porn, lots of terrain, lots of diversity, but a lot of horizontal locations. Not much to pick apart here, just really showing how different all these places are going to look, and they look gorgeous. So I'm very excited to see them all. The last takeaway I have for all of you here on my notes, it's number 102, is that this is the same exit cutscene, so there's no seamless landing or taking off. Do expect loading screens, but as they show the ship getting up off the planet and leaving across a variety of planets, and they all have the same exact cutscene, this shows to me that it's not going to be like No Man's Sky, get in, take off, no problem. And I think that's a necessary sacrifice if you want more handcrafted stuff. So that's everything, and I mean everything we have for Starfield's trailer and all so that's everything, and I mean everything I could personally find, break down, and scour the web, as well as the trailer for in Starfield's entire gameplay reveal. Hope you all enjoyed. I had a blast breaking it down. There were so many times during this I geeked out as I made discoveries on my own, and I had a lot of fun with this. So let me know what you think of what I discovered here. Please fire away down below. Do you feel more excited after seeing all of this in Starfield? I'm pumped to see your thoughts, and with that, I'll catch all of you in the next video. Be sure to follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram. Those links are in the description down below. And a big thank you to all the patrons, all the members who continue to support the hell out of the content here. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.